it as they used to do before. Not just not just service providers anymore that are actually connecting to IX. We even have enterprise, organization, and government agencies. So in terms of where we were before and where we are now, we can say there has been a tremendous growth in terms of the understanding and peering. There's a report recently by ISOC that actually evaluates Nigeria and Kenya with the 80-20 and how we are doing. And we realize that here in Nigeria, there has been a tremendous growth. We are having within 70-80% of traffic being local in the country at the moment. So there's been a lot of growth from then till now, and it's still getting better by the day. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jacob. So speaking awareness, and maybe we assume that the people on this call are pretty conversant with what peering is. When you refer to peering in your previous statements, what exactly did you mean? Like, what is peering? Who can pair? How do we get to pair? Let's not assume that everybody here is quite aware of what peering is. Like, I work for a small company. We are not a network operator. Can we pair? In Nigeria, how does one do that? And then maybe Darwin, you can tell us what pairing generally looks like from your perspective. What are the things involved in getting to pair and interconnect? Do I have to belong to a certain category of organization? Do I need to be in a certain city? If my company is based in Sokoto, which is far northwest, for example, can I pair? Can I take advantage of all of these things that you're talking about? You talked about 1 meg traffic on the pairing fabric. That sounds really strange from just a couple of years ago. So maybe if you could share with us a little bit about how someone in Nigeria can be part of this pairing and interconnection ecosystem. Who are those who are able to participate, and who's left out of it right now? Is there anything that they can do to enjoy this pairing? Obviously, it sounds like it's something of advantage, and that's why we're here discussing it. So who can take advantage of it? Who can currently not take advantage of it?
Okay, so I would like to put this, pairing this way, because most times, I think for technical people, when you talk about pairing, we think about BGP, connecting routers together and all that. While at technical level, that might be what happens at the end of the day. But I think it actually grows beyond that, because that was what happened. That's what actually happened last. So by pairing, you can look at it broadly, like we are actually talking about a concept of when two networks actually interconnect together in order for them to be able to exchange traffic with one another. So that's it in the broad sense of view, not going technical, although at the end of the day, you use BGP, and the term pairing itself actually comes from BGP, but it goes beyond that. From layman's perspective, you can see this as the process through which two independent networks connect together for the purpose of exchanging traffic with one another. So, and that could take a different form. It's not necessary. What kind of organization can be part of peering? I would say any organization that, because when you want to pair, you have the things that require, you have a network. When you have a network, you have IP address blocks that actually belongs to you, because this usually happen most times with peering with public IP address. So you have a public IP address of your own, and you have a unique autonomous system number, because what you're actually doing is you are interconnecting with another network of another autonomous system. So, and that would also require you having the physical connection itself for you to make that happen. And using a platform like all these data centers gives you opportunity to do that, and an exchange point being present also help in doing that, because at the time when an organization that has network and you have autonomous system, you have your unique IP address, and you understand the benefits, you can actually connect. A lot of benefits goes into that, because rather than sending the traffic between the two organizations through upstream provider or through other sources, the two organizations actually exchange it with one another. So exchange points just give you a platform where many of the challenges that you have to go through in putting in place an infrastructure for you to connect with an individual network, because as the system grows, you have multiple networks. Exchange points gives you that opportunity to connect just to an exchange point, and you have this direct access to all the other networks that are within the exchange point, depending on their pairing policy. So any organization that has autonomous system number, has a network, and has IP address, it could be a internet service provider, it could be an enterprise organizations these days, because many enterprise organizations, with the volume of data that they're actually using and their volume of traffic is even more than what some ISPs actually have. So those are the category of organizations that can actually be part of an exchange point.
All right, thanks, Jacob. Darwin, you wanted to chip in there?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we hear you better.
Hey, good day, everyone. Good day, Dewole and Jacob. Jacob, even before I jump into the point you just mentioned, which I fully agree, I would like to introduce myself first. So my name is Darren Costa. I currently work for DKIX, the German Internet Exchange Point. Well, we are all over the continents with 29 exchange points globally, and we're doing more than 500 data centers nowadays. For the ones who know me, know also that I work, in very voluntary activities like, the African Peering Forum Program Committee, also the Nigerian Peering Committee. I do work for Peering DB as admin co-chair, and also for the Policy Development Working Group of AFRINIC, which is a hot topic nowadays. And well, yeah, that was my briefly introduction. And to jump into actually what Jacob said, Dewole, I fully agree with him. And I think given that the report which was issued, the Hassan report which was issued by Internet Society on the 80/20s was a very good report, for everybody who was even starting on our interconnection ecosystem, right? And I would like also to highlight that those kind of events that we are organizing these 3 days are crucial, for us to tackle technical problems, but also, problems related to financing, or whether whether you should start small, and if it might make sense to go regionally, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to IXPs, there was a very interesting fact on the key findings on the report from Internet Society, where they said that Nigeria and South Africa had something very similar, which was the number of networks connected into the IXP itself, which was above of 50 networks, right? But not only that, in order for us to create a healthy interconnection ecosystem, you need more than that. You also need the local content guys, right, to host the local content within the local internet exchange point. Whether is it one in one country or more than one internet exchange points, it doesn't really matter as long as the traffic remains local. And then you have to deal also with the international content and networks, right? The regional and the international ones. And I guess Nigeria has done a tremendous positive job when it comes to that, especially because to attract, regional networks is not that easy. It takes time. It takes a lot of conversations. It takes they need to look into the budget and into the customer count, whether expanding will make them as a network better or worse than the competition. So in details, the 80/20 report was a very good one, because at least you can see the stages where a country or where an IXP from this specific country is heading to, right? And once again, I think Nigeria has done a very good job in here, and you guys keep doing a good job in that. You know, because not all of content is already Nigeria. There are some still in Europe or United States, and this is a work that I believe Jacob and his team, you know, will keep doing that. You know, in order to even make Nigeria a more open country when it comes to interconnection.
Okay, thanks. Jacob, earlier you had mentioned that the presence of carrier-neutral data centers helps the pairing and interconnection ecosystem. How so? If I'm an enterprise and the bulk of my users, so taking me again, my example is I'm based in faraway Sokoto, and there's a carrier-neutral data center. I'm assuming that those ones are present in maybe Lagos or Abuja at best. How does the data center help me pair and interconnect, especially if all of my stuff is not sitting, it can't be placed in a data center? What do I need to do then? Do I get a connection, like a national long distance connection from the data center, maybe in Abuja or Lagos to Sokoto? I've seen quotes for those things. The quotes for Lagos to Sokoto or Abuja to Sokoto is much higher than my quote for internet access. So at the end of the day, I'd say, okay, you know what, put this thing aside, just give me transit link. I will buy internet services. And then at the end of the day, it's my upstream provider that benefits from the pairing and interconnection there. So does it really help me as an enterprise? And Jacob, and then Darwin, if you want to chime in after that.
Okay, so I think with most part of the world, the trend is, you know, you have the major cities where you have more people, and the level of infrastructure development that you have in the city, in some cities, you know, some metropolis compared to some other regions, the growths are usually not exactly the same. So to benefit, to be part of the pairing that I talked about, there needs to be a physical connection. If not a physical connection, there needs to be a circuit. And I think that's part of the things that, you know, to make this happen, there are different stakeholders that are actually involved, because all those things actually fly on infrastructure. Why is it that if you note, you would see that the growth of internet access and all that within the city are actually higher? Why? There's a lot of infrastructure that are available for this to thrive on. When you have data flows through a path. And fiber these days is fantastic in doing that. So a place like Lagos, you have enough fiber, you have many fiber infrastructure. So to get connected even to an IX, it's quite easier here in Lagos, even if the distance is far. For a place like Sokoto, for instance, if an IX is present in Sokoto, fantastic. You connect to the IX and you have access. But one thing you also need to understand, an IXP is not a transit provider. An IXP actually brings, it just aggregates connections within a particular metropolis. Or as it grows these days, you have IX being interconnecting together, like what even IXPN is doing. So the whole idea is to have networks in that region to connect together. The true benefit actually comes at the point where you start having more of people like you that will be interested in connecting to an IX as you realize the benefits and then coming together. See, those carrier neutral data centers also, they play a key role. If you don't have a data center where everyone can actually connect together, it could be a challenge. They have to be a common facilities where all this needs together. If you'll be going for buying, another option would be buying sockets, as in buying circuits, in order for you to get transport to the location where you have IX, whether it is local or foreign. That, in fact, most times it costs more than your cost of getting internet access, like you said. So it's a thing that grows over time. So as the infrastructure grows to the region where you are, I think you get to derive benefits. For us as exchange points, we have a model of planning to make sure that we cover all the regions of the country, and then we are expanding. So there are underlying infrastructures that are required for you to be part of this.
Yeah, if you want me, Dioli, I can jump into that as well. Once again, I do agree with Jacob just said, because if we look into at least data which is public announced, we can see that Lagos definitely is the place to be when it comes to Nigeria, right? So other cities might grow up as long as the infrastructure, the fiber, and the neutral data centers, which is very important, to mention that neutral ones, because you don't want to be stuck in a location where you cannot get access, for instance, to IXPN or to any IXP which is in that location because it's not neutral enough, and it popped off to me yesterday night when I was doing a research on Nigeria more deeply, and it was interesting to see, and Jacob and Dioli, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess all the main cables, the saver cables which are landing in Lagos, the two Africa will not be landing in Lagos. Is that correct? At least according to the sovereign cable map, it's going to be landing in Kuao Ibu, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not quite sure, but that's what you can see from the outside. But if this is the case, this is also good for diversity, right? At the end of the day. So like Jacob mentioned, other cities will start growing. It doesn't mean to say that they will become bigger. They might become bigger in the future than Lagos, but if the infrastructure is not there, then it's not going to happen. So it's very important that we get fiber in there. It's very important also that we get the neutral DCs in there, and it's very important also that the community understands what we are talking about, at least from the peering and interconnection perspective. And to give you a use case on that, I was just trying to help a friend out who has who has some network in Abuja, and for instance, he wanted to do something in Lagos, and he said, "Hey, Darren, I know you have many contacts, and can you help me out, try to find a good guy who can come out with affordable pricing between Abuja and Nigeria," and I was not even aware of the price per megabit between all the regions in Nigeria, and I did an introduction to him to some folks, and at the end of the day, it just didn't make sense for his business case because it was a small medium ISP, and he wanted to grow. He wanted to intensify his network nationally and start looking into regional opportunities, but the cost per megabit for that for A and B was a bit higher than he expected. So bottom line, coming again with Jacob said, as long as the infrastructure will be there, and the more the infrastructure will be used, the price per megabit will also come down. And I know that by fact, because if I compare where I come from, Angola, comparing to Nigeria, there are levels of maturity which Nigeria is wishing that we are not in there yet. For instance, and this will definitely, at the end of the day, make a more appealing interconnection ecosystem if more cities, just take the example that Lagos did, even though this might be in a medium and long term, but it will happen for a country like Nigeria, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. So landing stations or landing points outside Lagos, I think we're starting to see that it's getting more interesting to people to get into Nigeria via other places than Lagos. I'm not sure about the details that have been made public, but you are right that Kwaibo is of interest to at least one subsea cable operator, and that's in Akwa Ibom State. So that's in the south. You move up a little bit from Lagos, and then that's another entry point, which is good. So, Jacob, to you, I know that the IXPN runs a model where you have multiple facilities across the country. Now, I know that model has been scrutinized, criticized, in that you've done that. You've done that to help spur the growth of the peering and interconnection ecosystem. At least I know that a couple of years ago, your presence in Abuja encouraged me to find a metro provider that could get me into the facility where you were, because know what pairing and interconnection benefits are. So to go to that point of view of saying that the community needs to understand what is happening, we're talking here about pairing, interconnection, but maybe some people don't realize that the interconnection of networks directly or almost direct connection of networks helps in multiple ways in terms of performance, in terms of pricing, your cost per megabit if you're lucky enough to just meet right there on the fabric and not have to go through cutthroat rates to be at the exchange points. And then also, so there's performance, there's user experience, there's costs if you get it right. And to latch on to what Darwin said earlier, the more the people who start to do it, the lower the costs fall, and then the greater the benefits for everyone. So the second thing that I wanted to point out there, and I don't know what your experience has been like there, I did some work last year for a fiber cable operator, and basically they didn't want to get on the exchange point fabric in a city outside Lagos because the backhaul link between the remote exchange and the Lagos exchange, where a lot of the content distribution networks are present, was much smaller than their capacity. Now, I'm sure that at some point we'll figure out the commercials of it, how people, whether members contribute to the cost of that national long distance so that those pipes can be increased, or some other model. But I think, so for me, the solution to that operator was to say, hey, look, you can actually, we can see, yes, maybe the Google, the Facebook traffic, the Cloudflare traffic is the biggest chunk of what goes over that remote exchange point to exchange point link. But I think that if we could educate them on how they could pick out different destinations. So for example, if I put all of my traffic on the link and I see all of a sudden 8 gigs going towards the exchange point, and let's assume that there's no 8 gigs between the exchange point in Sokoto and the Lagos exchange points, because the IXPN cannot afford to pay for 8 gigs for a member who pays, I don't know how many thousand naira per port that they're using. Instead of having these operators totally shun the use of the exchange point fabric, perhaps we can see, and this is to all of us, the pairing forum, the IXPN, DKIX, ngNOG, perhaps we can educate people more on how you can not miss out on all the other traffic. Because even though the Facebook, the Google, the Cloudflare is probably the biggest chunk of traffic for any one operator, you still have all those other little applications who maybe you don't see more than 10 megs of traffic, 20 megs of traffic from them on a daily basis, but they will benefit from you using the pairing fabric to reach them. So maybe that's some work for us to do and teach people how to filter and make sure that, okay, if it's too big for what the IXP traffic is, backbone link is, move it out elsewhere and then send your lighter traffic there so people still enjoy the performance benefits. Any thoughts? Okay, you guys are muted.
You muted, Jacob. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
No problem.
Okay. So you, Dewole, I think you are right with such cases where you have, let's take for instance the Abuja scenario that you talked about, connecting, and then you consider the backhaul link that IXPN have all the way. One of the things that we do to help with this, mind you, IXPN is actually more like a tool to foster this growth of internet penetration in the country, and that is priority to us. In fact, we have organizations that connect to the IX. We've not had a case where we had to disconnect a member even because they were not paying or something. So we do encourage members to connect. In Abuja, for instance, for the IX, we charge exactly the same rates both in Abuja and Lagos. Now, for somebody that is connecting in Abuja, for instance, where even the cost of your transit is actually higher than what you will get in Lagos, and we know the cost of transport is actually much more higher. So you connecting to the IX, there are part of what people also need to understand is the fact that, all this coming together, it's like it caused a kind of ripple, a kind of chain reaction where your presence at the IX actually encourage others to connect to the IX, and then you get more benefits. It's usually start like when we have the switch and who is going to connect even in the first place. We try to let people understand even beyond now. If you connect to the IX now, and let's say the volume of the traffic that you are even get or that you can see flow through the IX, probably because there's no enough content within that particular location, your presence will actually encourage more content in that location. For instance, in Abuja, when we started with the model of just interconnecting, because IXPN is not going to turn to we are not the organization that's actually providing the connectivity or fiber infrastructure. We are working to make sure we catalyze that growth in that area. So we won't be investing in bandwidth, and we will not even increase the bandwidth beyond what the demand is at any point in time, because it will not make any commercials. It's just like wasting funds. So when we encourage organizations like that you connect, even if the volume of the traffic of what you can get locally is small right now, your presence encourages even more content and others connect. It is this number of, let's say, highball networks that are present there that would encourage the content network to see that this is a place to be. Then the content network can start having probably their catches in those locations. And that is now happening even in Abuja. If we had not gotten content network, as in eyeball networks to connect there wouldn't have been content network like Google, Facebook that are coming up in that particular location. So the benefit is not just now, but you would even get it much more. And if the traffic is so small, the IX actually have different port level, like we still take something like 10 meg. As small as 10 meg, and whatever the level is, you can still connect at the IX, and we are open to discussion. I think it's more of that awareness that we still need to do more and let people understand that this is something that can work, and at the same time, it's a win-win for everybody, not just something you do now and you get all the benefits. As it grows, you also benefit more.
While you spoke, Jacob, I was just thinking out loud that something that we do at DKIX, which is actually, we do recognize this kind of, especially me coming from Angola, right? I do recognize this kind of bottlenecks, especially when you as IXPN drop an exchange point in Lagos, and then you have the other one in Abuja, and then you say, okay, so my work is just to guarantee that I do what I do best, which is localizing traffic in these certain regions. But one of the things that you guys might think about it, and knowing that you guys are not a backup provider, but just sit down with 2 or 3 folks from these backup provider guys, and just tell them, listen, if I give you, I don't know, in Lagos, X amount of 10G ports or 100G ports, and you guys guarantee the interconnection between my exchanges in those 2 locations, then I, as a IXPN, might help out these folks in Abuja, because like you mentioned, there are folks who don't have the financial means, even to reach out to Lagos, but there are networks in Lagos that they might wanted to reach out. It might not be specifically a content provider, but it might be, I don't know, a regional network which is only in Lagos and does not intend to go to Abuja. You know what I mean? So that might be something that I was thinking out loud that maybe might be interesting to explore or not. But that is a way that we actually found out to solve many problems that we had. Especially when you work when you have a market where there is a lot of incumbents. And it's something which is not manageable by you guys and not by us. We have to depend on others to get networks connected. So that's but we managed to fix things on our hand as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Okay. So we actually do a lot of that. In fact, what we even do, even to portray that we even the carriers that actually have capacity between these regions, we discuss with them to understand the benefits of this, because what actually happens is the growth of the IX in those locations as people connect to the IX, and that's the way people look at it sometimes with a short-term view, that as the IX grow in that particular region, it's going to drop our revenue because as people are now connecting to the IX, and they would be reducing probably the volume of what they are sending through us as a provider, and we will be providing infrastructure for you at a rate, and then, you know, at the end of the day, it's dropping our costs. So there's, I think it's more of an ongoing discussion and a continuous thing till people get to see the big picture. If the ecosystem there grows, because as we encourage more, there's something about internet access, and I've seen that even being explained to in many of ISOC reports. When you have internet access in a particular region, it fosters more growth. And that more growth fosters even more growth of that internet usage. If you don't have access in the first place, you might not be able to think of innovative things that you can do with it. So it's an ongoing discussion that we encourage even the big player, that you are not going to lose in the long run if you look at it, because as that community grow, you still remains a big player to provide all this access that will be required for even smaller service providers that will be coming up, and even enterprises that will be coming up, and there would even be more demand on their service. So we do a bit of that, and we intend to improve more on it as well.
All right, thanks, Jacob. I see a question about the AU. Can you see in the chat?
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention about it because this is exactly what we are speaking about. I think it's more a comment rather than a question, right? Is that the one that is saying that as an ISP, I appear at the carrier neutral data center in Port Harcourt and also have transit provider? Is that the one you mean, Dewole?
No, not that. There's one from Bello Usman, says, where are we?
Okay.
Multi-chatting. Where are we for the AU Sub-Regional African Internet Exchange Program? That's Bello Usman.
Oh, okay.
Then
it's not on the Q&A, I guess, right? It's on the chat.
No, he didn't.
I think it's in the chat. Yes.
All right. Do you want to take this one, Jacob?
Okay, so I think okay, so the regional connection that we talked about in while we are discussing this so far might be we're talking about Lagos in relation to Abuja, to other regions, but I think what the African Union program is actually talking about was a project designed by African Union, looking at this model of the fact that when you localize traffic within a metropolis, it saves cost and you get all these benefits. African Union try to look at it in a broader view, like, okay, so if you are considering Lagos, for instance, you said traffic being exchanged between different operators in Lagos is actually going outside of the country and then coming back, and then you solve that with an IXP presence in Lagos because he interconnects them and he bridges it. So they take a look at it in the broader view that now look at Africa, for instance, within the same region of Africa. If you can achieve that within a country, can you also achieve the same thing when you look at a region? Because you will now have two countries that are side by side and traffic can be exchanged between them, sort of going through the same, going through the path of going abroad and then coming back, which might not be efficient while they are closer. So that was the idea. And what they did is they actually choose some exchange points and funded them, and IXPN happens to be one of them. So the funding was what goes into increasing the IXPN in terms of technical capacity and provide infrastructures even for different regions. And we also worked on connecting with other regions. There was a test run that we did then, even connecting IXPN with Ghana IX then at that particular point in time. And for some for reasons around commercial and all that, we couldn't sustain it at that particular point in time. But there are ongoing discussions on to see how that model can actually work for us in terms of interconnecting the two regions together. So the primary idea behind this is to foster the growth of internet exchange points within the region and faster connectivity of traffic between them. So for us, I think you can even see it's part of what encourage IXPN to grow in capacity, to grow in terms of capacity building, and even in terms of our infrastructure as well. But in terms of that physical connectivity between the IX, that is still, there's still an ongoing discussion on how we work that out fully. I don't know if that's actually answers the question.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jacob. So as it always is when we're talking peering and interconnection, especially in Nigeria with our massive population, presence of network operators, time flies. And in a couple of minutes, we would be going over to the next one. Please put your questions and answers. Put your questions in the Q&A part of the Zoom chat. You'll find it there, Q&A. Put your questions in there. We have a few minutes after the next presentation to have those questions addressed. And I had a question. What's the effect of the pandemic been on internet exchange points growth? Both Darwin with the European and other city traffic, and then from the IXPN, which is a local point of view. So maybe Darwin, do you want to share what is it? And this could be pre-COVID-19, post-COVID-19, even though some say we're still in the COVID-19 age. But what's it been like? What have you seen in the last 1 to 3 years, almost 1 to 2 years in terms of?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, Dewole. Thanks for raising that up because, well, all of this was unexpected, right? At the end of the day, and we're still in it, And interesting thing is that you might hear governments from different countries already talking about the new lockdown, which unfortunately won't make this event very soon. Hopefully next year already, but if not, depending on the situations, we might not be able to see each other face to face. But for us, or at least what we see in Europe, and RIPE has done a very good report on that as well, whereby they did a couple of measurements on multiple applications, and the increase of that traffic towards those specific applications at the end of the day, and within DKIX, at least we, in 2020, when everything started, everybody started using, like we are doing now, these communicative applications like Zoom, Teams, and so on and so forth. And what we actually saw was the increase of upgrades from not only small, medium, or large networks within our interconnection infrastructure, but we also obviously saw the CDNs doing heavy upgrades because as most of what we do nowadays is video streaming. So those guys were just preparing themselves with already what they had on the backbone. They wanted to make even more not appealing, or even more robust for them to keep providing this quality of service to the end users at the end of the day. And so by saying that, in 2020, what we saw was, again, a lot of upgrades. But interestingly enough, we were seeing requests coming from the enterprise world, like Jacob mentioned, and those guys carry a lot of data, a lot of traffic, and we also saw the automotive guys coming across, so very interesting when we speak about those guys, like on the enterprise business or even on the automotive thing. They really don't might know much about peering as we do, as the ones today here, the participants, and we as a panelist, and you as the moderator. But interesting enough is, when you start conversations with them, if you normally talk with an autonomous system numbers within our interconnection world, they might get it within within 10 minutes. Okay, so this is my benefits if I do peering nationally, if I do peer regionally, or if I expand internationally. On the enterprise level, it's more the saying, like, if it works, don't touch it, But they also realize, like, okay, so there is innovation coming across, there is the pandemic forcing us to do things that we were not used to do it, And so that the pandemic push was an interesting one because, talking with the enterprise folks, it might take you like up to 3 months or up to 5 months to, just to convince them, listen, just forget about the VPNs or just skip it, but just think more about exchanging traffic with the other enterprise folks which are on the internet exchange point, or just get your cloud connectivity to Microsoft Azure or to AWS, just to make your internal services even more appealing for your users. So that was quite fun to see that in 2020. And as we move on in 2021, and at least not this year, at least we are seeing less lockdowns, right? And by saying that, we could see also that the traffic has normalized a bit. Why? Because in 2022 the networks did the upgrade, and in 2021 it looks like they are just okay within the threshold that they set up to upgrade their backbone. So that's very interesting to see. But if new lockdowns come on the corner, maybe they will rethink, or maybe they will say, okay, so what we have currently might not be enough for Q1, Q2 2022. So those were the shift that we were seeing. And especially when you talk about these communicative applications like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or even the gaming industry, which also had a booming, because all the children were inside locked and playing video games at the end of the day, So that's what we actually saw on our perspective.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Jacob, very quickly, because we're running into Fargani's presentation time.
Okay, so from our perspective, what I noticed, it was a funny one during the period when I think there was that lockdown here in Nigeria, and the thought was that we would see increase in peering traffic and all that, but rather it was the reverse that we saw. We noticed that the traffic just went down, like, so why exactly is going down? So we had to be reaching out to members that what's going on, because the news that we heard from Europe and even America is the fact that, okay, so traffic at the IX is growing, and then we too were preparing that there was going to be a growth and all that, but what we saw was everything going down. In fact, during that period, there was this fund that we also got, this support that we work along with Facebook, and also tell members that if you even want to increase your port capacity during that period, you will pay like 50%, like a discount, just connect on the group. But what we noticed that everything went down from the interactions that we have with members. So what did we notice? We noticed that most of the networks that are connected, that actually, we have the Nigeria system is you have more people on the internet through the mobile network operators. So many of the regular ISPs that are not mobile operators, what they experienced was a drop in their traffic, because most of the enterprises that they were providing services for have their staff going home. And when their staffs went home, what they were working with, there's this quick demand for VPN solution. People were looking for all sorts of VPNs to connect office to home, drop the internet bandwidth that they are using in the office. In fact, members are actually coming to us. See, what we want to do is, if we can even reduce, when you are saying which we increase, we even want to reduce what we are doing, because there's no demand, that we are talking to even our providers to make sure that they reduce. And as it drops, the funny thing is, after some time, we notice it picked up again. So why did it pick up? I think at that point in time, the VPN solutions and everything, people that's getting used to staying at home, different solutions are actually being provided. Most of the service providers are now even deploying services to the home to get those bandwidths distributed and all that. And then we started experiencing the increase. There was this rush for equipment for organizations that couldn't get. I remember some of the guys, that the local vendors that sells equipment, because it was difficult for you to get equipment from outside. You get to Ikeja, at that point in time, you just want even to use the equipment, even to get is actually difficult, because people quickly bought the things that are available. And you cannot start providing most of the scaling up that was even happening even with the MNOs, were the things that they have already in place that were not utilized. It's not that during the pandemic they could quickly scale up, because it takes time for you to plan, for you to get infrastructure and all that. But the thing is, after the pickup that we noticed, after that the traffic went down, we have seen the traffic to now be growing again. Even from those that wants to reduce their bandwidth, things have started taking a new turn and it's growing. I think people are getting used to another way of working, and the utilization of bandwidth within the country has actually increased. So Darwin actually shared something. Let me share another part here. He said it takes like 3 months to get an enterprise network to connect to an IX, because they don't want to touch what is working. In Nigeria, it will take you more than a year. You are just talking, you're talking, because even when you approach them, it's something that is new to them. They don't plan it for that year. It might even go into the budget of things that they will consider for next year. So for some of them, we do proof of concept period. We'll give you like 6 months or something, just to prove that this thing works. So the environment is a bit different, but we are now seeing the growth as people tend to be adopting new means of working and new innovative services that are coming up.
So I have learned something this morning. All of the growth that DKIX and everybody around the world is saying they saw during the pandemic is actually VPN traffic from those of us in Africa trying to now get to the office networks, which is usually, so the VPN traffic is not present at, the VPN servers mostly are not present at the IX. So that becomes transit traffic, which then shows up somewhere else. Okay, good.
Okay, sorry, let me just add something quickly. When I say VPN, I was actually not referring to VPN as in like proxy. I mean VPN like people connecting to their home. Like you have an office, you have internet access, connecting down to the office. That was what the rush was for at that particular point in time.
Yes,
so we have increased traffic, but more with the MNOs, which many of those traffic do not flow through the IX.
Yes, I get it, because the VPN, the head end of the VPN service is not present on the exchange point fabric and it's going somewhere else. So that's a business opportunity for local operators or anybody else who wants to run that kind of thing.
And
so we have overshot our time.
And you know what the funny thing is, the only sorry, but very quick. My peers, or the peers that I used to talk in South America, they said, "Hey, Darren, we need this IPTV thing to work." And each IPTV provider is in Europe, so that was also something we saw, it was interesting to know that as well.
Yeah, it's been great having you guys on this panel. As always, you're very passionate about the subject matter, and we have a lot of things to work on. But at this point, we'd have to shut the panel down. Thank you very much, Darwin. Thank you very much, Jacob. And so there will be Q&As. I know some of you have put questions and answers inside in the chat. After the next presentation, we will address, Ghislaine would address the questions and answers, or the questions for answers, hopefully. So next we have Fargani Tambeayo, and he will be talking about internet exchange points and their role in supporting internet ecosystem development in Nigeria. Fargani is with Facebook and is struggling with connectivity right now, but hopefully his audio comes through while the Secretariat manages the video. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Dewole. Thanks, Jacob. And good luck for the next speaker.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, hello, everyone. Dewole, please tell me if you can hear me loud and clear.
I can hear you, Fargani, and surprisingly, I can see you too. Congrats.
Yes. So what I'll do is I just wanted our esteemed audience to see me, just so they know there's actually someone at the end of the other call. But I'm going to switch off the video now so that hopefully my connection doesn't drop. But hello, everyone. Good morning. It's afternoon here in Addis. I'm currently traveling and I'm in Addis, and the connection here isn't great. So a bit about myself. I'm called Fargani Tambayuk. I lead our connectivity policy work in Africa for Facebook. I've been at Facebook now for almost 3 years. Before that, I used to work for an international development organization called the Commonwealth Telecoms Organization. So it's a real pleasure to connect with you. I'm Cameroonian, so I feel half Nigerian as well, because I have very strong ties with my Nigerian brothers and sisters. So pleasure to be discussing with you today. So it's a very short presentation. I just wanted to touch on. I think the previous speakers, Jacob and Darwin, they've really highlighted the role IXPs have had in really driving that internet ecosystem development in Nigeria. They've done an excellent job. So I'll touch a bit about that, about some of the benefits that they've already. So I'll quickly I'll quickly go through those. But I'll focus most of my talk on what do we need to do next to get the IXPs to the next level of their development and have more peering and interconnection happening locally. So for those who don't know Facebook, our mission is about giving people the power to build community and bring the world closer. And connectivity is really at the heart of our mission because we cannot achieve this mission if millions of 3.2 billion people are still not connected to the internet. A lot of these people are actually based in Africa. A lot of them are based in Nigeria as well. And really, Facebook is aligned with industry stakeholders like the IXP there, and as well as government and all other ecosystem players in trying to ensure that more Nigerians have access to a better and more affordable internet. Next slide, please. And really, it's clear. I think this was touched on very briefly in the previous conversation, but it's clear that COVID-19 has really accelerated the rate at which we use the internet across the continent, including Nigeria. If you look at the latest stats from the Internet Inclusivity Index, which is developed by the Economist Intelligence Unit, you'll see that it's like the data really speaks to what we all know today, that the internet is no longer a luxury, it's no longer something that is just good to have, it's become a necessity, especially as it's a crucial tool for improving our livelihoods. And as we know, as a country, as a continent that is still emerging, we need to really capitalize on all the tools that can improve our economic lives as well as our social lives. So this is just data from that report or from that index that proves the point or that validates what we already know, that the internet is really crucial. And that is why we're all here today. Like peering and interconnection are really the mechanisms through which we able to access content or use the internet well. And it's important that we address or we discuss these things to enable all Nigerians and all Africans really benefit from the internet. If we move to the next slide. And I think Jacob and Darwin referenced this report, which was published, I think, towards the middle of last year, 2020, sometime last year. And really, it's clear that IXPs really enhance or enable public peering, because here, one network can actually peer with multiple networks through a single connection. I think we've already spoken about the benefits. Traffic is kept local, faster connections. It's cheaper as well. You don't need to pay to exchange traffic through third parties, so you can exchange directly. It improves the network performances and the bandwidth capacity. And also, because you have partners, it's easier to have additional support where needed. And really, what that report told us is that Nigeria has actually grown its local internet traffic to 70%. And this is really as a result of the IXP there. And one of the outcomes is that we have now more people being connected. And yeah, it's really an amazing development that we've seen in Nigeria. But from our perspective, we don't think it's important. We think it's important we don't rest on our laurels. We need to continue to work to ensure that this IXP development doesn't just stop there. They should grow and go to the next level. And really what we're saying is, what's that next level? So right now we have local traffic or local traffic at 70%. But that next level is really over 80%. So we want to be in a place in 1 or 2 years where we have more than 80% of traffic being exchanged locally. And there are a number of things that need to happen from a policy, regulatory, or even from a practical standpoint to enable us reach that next level of development, and enable more peering and interconnection to happen locally. We need to ensure that there's no anti-competitive behavior happening, especially when we're trying to set up these peering arrangements. We also need to ensure that net neutrality concerns are addressed. We've seen some developments across the world where different types of traffics are handled differently. And yes, it's as you know, to manage the network, you need to put in place proper traffic management, but it shouldn't reach the point where it's kind of discriminatory and anti-competitive. So these are some of the things that we need to ensure to enable us get to that next level. Because if we don't do this, then smaller ISPs wouldn't be able to connect and take part in these peering arrangements that happen within the IXP. We also need to, and I think Jacob and Darwin touched on this already, we need to continue to build awareness around the benefits of peering and local content hosting within the Nigerian IXP. There's still a number of local content providers. I think maybe even some government agencies hosting their content out of Nigeria. We need to create more awareness of the benefits of doing this locally, to bring them, to make sure that they able to bring their traffic and host it locally. We also need to ensure that international capacity doesn't just stay at the subsea landing point, but can be transported nationwide. And that's where, by doing that, we're going to have more peering points across Nigeria, which would enhance more peering as well as lead us to that next stage in the IXP development. And particularly, we need things that will bring down the cost of fiber deployments. I think right-of-way has always been an issue in Nigeria, and there's been some movement there where we are aware that the NCC has been engaging the Forum of Governors to try and establish a standard low rate for right-of-ways. And we've even seen some very positive developments in some states where governments are actually going beyond that national rate. Some governments are even waiving right-of-way charges entirely. Such policy developments would lead to a fall or a reduction in the cost of fiber deployments. We also need to things around getting the proper permits to deploy fiber. We need to streamline those regulatory processes and bring down the costs. I think we've touched it again. We've really discussed on this call the benefits of carrier neutral data centers and their role in bringing down the cost of hosting content locally. That's something that we need to work together to promote, to ensure that we have more of these in Nigeria, and we want more of this in different locations other than Lagos. And we also need to promote, we need to continue working on those relevance and readiness challenges of dimensions of connectivity. Because if we don't have people with the right skills, or if we don't have relevant content that will motivate people to use the internet, if we don't have the right skills to use the internet effectively and safely, then the sort of traffic that will require more local hosting wouldn't happen in Nigeria. So it's important that we continue to work on those demand side interventions as well, to help build the digital literacy of people, ensure that there's frameworks or policies that create or incentivize people to create more local content and host that local content in Nigeria. So these are some of the things that we need to do. If we move to the next slide. And I think it's, and this was also mentioned in the previous conversation, but I think for us, we really believe in working together with partners to ensure that that internet ecosystem in Nigeria develops fully. And that is why from apart from landing in Lagos, we also keen to land in another part of Nigeria. And by landing in a different part of Nigeria, we're going to have more localized internet ecosystem development happen within that part of Nigeria. I think it's so Nigerians, you have this construct of South-South, but I understand that it's in terms of geographical directions, it's actually the southeastern part of Nigeria, Akwa Ibom. So whether it's southeastern or South-South, we plan to land in Akwa Ibom. And really, we anticipate that this landing would ensure that that locality or that region would see an upsurge or real development or rapid development of the internet ecosystem there. And we believe that the IXPs and also have a key role to play in that development there. So I'll stop there. And I don't know if I came out loud and clear at your side, Dewole, but hopefully my connection was stable enough for our esteemed audience to get the gist of most of what I was trying to say. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, indeed, Fargani. Thank you very, very much for the crisp presentation. We heard you loud and clear. Your connection held up thanks to the network operators over there. Interestingly, I am just a few kilometers away from your proposed landing station in Akwa Ibom. So we look forward to seeing you here soon. I will hand over now to Guylaine to take the question and answer session. I believe that's what is next right now. So panelists, please stand by for those questions so that you can address them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. So for the to the panelists, we have a few questions. We have a question from someone called Aziz Badmas. He says, "Hi, this is Aziz, and I own a small ISP in Assum State. One of our major challenges is having a peer connection with Lagos IX. So usually we ask our backhaul provider to help announce via them. My question is there any plan to start peering via tunnels?" I think what he means here by tunnels, he means by remote peering. So his upstream provider is actually doing the peering for them. So what can we advise him to do? He owns a small ISP in Assum State. Probably Jacob can answer that. Jacob, can you hear me?
Okay, so for Aziz, when we actually allow such cases, you tell your service provider to advertise your prefix to members of the exchange, fine. But in terms of the remote pairing, such that you can do a tunnel and you now peer directly, that's remote pairing. At the moment, we don't offer that as a service, but plans are, as in it's actually part of the plans of things we are looking towards for next year. So as we make that available through the platform, we are going to announce it and then you can get, but with your connection at the moment, the best you can do right now is to actually the adverts the way you are doing it at the moment.
Okay. So we have another question from Noah. Noah is asking why, or any reason why MNOs are not pushing traffic on the IX. So he's probably assuming that you have in Nigeria big MNOs, but they're not pushing any traffic, pushing or pulling any traffic on the exchange. And any particular reason for that?
So one of the reasons for this, you know, for most of the big MNOs, part of what they, you know, you have the content networks that have caches are connected directly to the IX because the MNOs are big, and they actually have caches of these MNOs within their network. So a lot of this traffic actually goes through the MNO, as in sorry, through those caches. So they send traffic through those caches. So that results to reduce in the volume of the traffic that they have at the IX. Another thing that also happens is the mobile network operators, even within the DCs, too, they do direct peering that is outside of the IX. That is, they peer directly at the data center location. So a lot of those traffic too are not seen at the IX. So usually the way we look at growth is we say, we foster growth, and we don't try to choke it, in the sense that a lot of traffic, if you see the volume of traffic we have at IXPN, for instance, we are saying we see 240, 250, but that does not actually depict the total volume of traffic you have within the country, because a lot of traffic is actually growing through those direct connectivity. And many of them are actually fostered even by the exchange point. When I say fostered, some of the content network actually came in because the IX attracts them. So they came in and then the MNOs could connect. Is that growth? Of course, to us, it's actually still a growth, even though we want the traffic to flow through the IX so we can have a good capture of all the traffic. Then besides, there could be some policy reasons, even inside some of the MNOs, where we have some of their prefixes are not actually being advertised to the IX. We are reaching out to them to see reason why would you have some prefixes advertised even globally that you don't advertise through the IX. So that is also an ongoing discussion as well. So I don't know if that's answered the question.
No, I mean, you touched it. Yeah, you're right. There are some. What we see, or what you see on the exchange, is beyond what is actually happening is beyond what we see on the exchange, because there are private network interconnect happening and other traffic as well. So the other question is from, I think Lawrence has a question. I think you've touched it a little bit. He's saying, if I am connected at Abuja circuit of the IXPN, I think he meant the point of presence in Abuja. Does it mean I am not directly connected to the circuit in Lagos, to the point of presence in Lagos, to the point of presence in Port Harcourt, in Kano? So if I do that, can I appear in those different locations? That's the question. I think you mentioned a little bit about it.
Yeah, okay, so let me just explain this. Maybe it throws more light on it. The model that IXPN is operating at the moment, all the POPs are interconnected, irrespective of the location that they are. So if you connect in one location, you have access to all the other locations. So if you are also considering that once you connect somewhere, you need to connect in another location, for instance, that depends on your network. It depends on your network infrastructure and how you actually built it. So we have some providers that actually the way they've segmented their networks, it makes sense for them to even connect in multiple locations. Even within Lagos, you have many providers that are also connected in multiple locations in Lagos. So it's a function of how your network architecture, because if you don't get it right, it can even hurt you if you don't get it right.
Subsequent question to that: do you guarantee any traffic between the POPs? Between Kano and Port Harcourt, between Lagos and Kano, and so on and so forth?
So in terms of guarantee, as in, do you mean like,
can I push any amount of traffic?
Sure, based on the port's capacity that you've actually got, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. There is one last question from, he's an anonymous, or she is an anonymous attendee. It's a little bit long, but bear with me if I read out. So as an ISP IP at Carrier Neutral Data Center in Port Harcourt, and I have a transit provider, the peering point in Port Harcourt does not have enough members to access the CDN members on the same peering fabric. My traffic has to travel to Lagos. To Lagos. I noticed that latency to the CDN is better over my transit link than the peering fabric, possibly due to the backhaul link between Port Harcourt and Lagos. What is the advantage of peering at the location, as I would prefer a better latency for my clients to the destination? I think it's a question subsequent to what you just mentioned. So between the POPs, it is going slow, but transit goes quickly. So the question here would be probably what is the advantage of peering? If that's the case for that anonymous attendee. I don't have the name, sorry about that.
Okay, so a number of things could result to that. It's possible that the content you are actually accessing might be cached even within the network of your transit provider. So you can be accessing it locally while the IX does not have that particular CDN within that environment. But just like it was said in the previous discussion, we interconnect these locations together. Even IXPN is not even responsible, as in we are responsible. We actually engage a provider like every other operator to give us this circuit between those two locations. So what you are prone to, we are also prone to that because we don't have the infrastructure on our own. But beyond that particular, what you can look at is beyond that particular content network, because we don't even have control about where they feed you from. All we do is just we do the setup, and we can engage when we have a more optimal path. If you connect to the IX, if you cannot have access to that particular CDN at that point in time, of course, there are other networks that are also available that you can access through the IX. If that's volume, you can reduce the port level with which you are connecting to the IX, and we are open to discussion based on that from you. So you still have benefits, at least to access other content other than the one in question. Mind you, your presence there would actually encourage us over time to get that content network to come into that particular location, because they check your profile. We give information to CDNs that are interested on which networks are available in that location. So you can actually be an attraction even for that content network to be there, and then you get further benefits as time goes on.
Okay, thank you. We have other set of questions, but I don't know on time how we are doing. I think we're left with 2 minutes. We have a question from, okay, this is an ongoing, question.
I guess you can pick up the ones also in the Q&A because they were staying there for long. I don't know if you saw that, but there are a couple.
Okay. Okay, so there is a question from Alfonso. What is the plan to create awareness for financial institutions and other corporate organizations to join the exchange point to encourage local connectivity? So beyond the traditional network operators, financials, the banks, the insurance companies, what is being done to encourage them to connect to the local connectivity?
Maybe I can jump very quick into that, and I think me and Jacob, we actually touch on that, especially on the different levels of approaching those folks. By the time we start approaching them and by the time they get connected to internet exchange point, might differ on different regions and countries, right? So picking up this point and giving you guys an example of what we did in Angola 5 years ago when an exchange called ngNOG was launched in the country. Actually, what we did was actually, make a plan and have this plan as segmented as possible as we could. And the aim was back then to okay, so we need to approach those folks from the networking side. We need to approach those banking guys. We need to approach even universities, because I guess South Africa gives a good example on that. When you see a lot of universities with their own autonomous system numbers and IPs, peering over the peering fabric, which is awesome to see that, if you have patience for what we do on the interconnection business. But going back to Angola, what we actually did, we segmented everything, and we started to touch one by one, and again, it was not an easy job to do, it took long, so the efforts paid off like a year after or 2 years after, but at the end of the day, it paid off. Why? Because it was one more banking or financial institution within the internet exchange point, whether the traffic was high or low, it didn't match. It didn't, there was not a big difference for us back then, because what we wanted to see was to see the financial institutions within the platform itself, right? Because if nowadays you are doing internet banking, even those traffic which is being routed, needs to be quick. The applications needs to be quick, reached by the eyeballs, and that's how we do it. Actually, we segment it, and then after 1 or 2 years of time speaking with those folks back and forth, they finally understood the benefits of peering, and they interconnected. And funny enough to see that after when COVID approached, when COVID came in, was that everybody was talking about digital. All right. So even the banks, once they were connected into the internet exchange point, the digital run or the digital path for them was a little bit more easier, because they were already prepared on the back end.
Thank you, Darwin. Thank you. I mean, you are very much right. My experience in Rwanda is that once you have one bank, it is always good to convince the others. So security, resilience of the service is among the points that you put across, and they connect to the exchange. So there is a little bit of hand holding as well, because they probably may not know BGP, but you help them do that. All right, so we have another question from Mary Uduma. She's asking, when is Facebook cable expected to land in Akwa Ibom in Nigeria? Has IXPN plans to have an exchange point there or near the landing point?
Yeah, according, just to not to answer the question that Jacob has to answer, but according to the submarine cable maps, it says that the cable from to Africa is going to be landing in 2023, not specifically in Nigeria itself, but the source states that the cables will be ready for service in 2023. But maybe our friend from Facebook also can confirm that or not. But that was the location that I initially mentioned in the beginning, which was a different location than Lagos, which is great for the diversity as well.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So 2020, it looks like it's on the cards for the landing. And to answer the part of the question about does IXPN plan to be there, is that there will be at least one carrier-neutral data center close to that landing station. So from there, we can have pairing points and contents going in there.
Okay, thank you, Dewole. So another question from Azuka Ofogu. The question is, it's about the financial benefits of an exchange point, and probably some numbers as well if you have. Please, can the panelists enlighten us a bit more on the financial benefits in figures that a country like Nigeria benefits from IXP, and how it does trickle down to the SMEs?
So I don't know if Jacob is going to choose to break down the numbers there, but easily what you would see is that when service providers start to reduce their per gigabyte pricing and things like that, it's because the cost of access reduced to them. So someone can do the study and see how it relates directly. But this is all part of it. Reduced costs for the operators, improved performance for the users, ultimately benefits the economy, small, medium. Jacob, do you have anything to add to that?
Okay, so basically the drop actually, and the estimate is just around the fact that what ought to have been paid, if you look at what you would spend in connecting to the IX compared to what you would spend for transit, there's a wide gap between them. So the financial benefits and that's exactly where it comes in, because it comes in for a service provider that connects to the IX. You have, rather than paying so much for your transits, you pay that a little amount to put infrastructure, probably to connect at the IX to connect. That's where the drop actually comes in. That's where you have this benefits in terms of the finance. So, but if you compare, it's a lot cheaper when you are connecting to the IX compared to when you are doing transit. What you pay for is just the port level, and irrespective of how much your traffic is within that port range, you don't get charged higher. But if it's a transit, even if it goes up by a few megabytes, you have to pay more. And besides, what that does is, if you are doing this, you don't spend that much paying through an upstream parts. You would spend more on infrastructure that connects you to a location. Probably more funds goes into like a data center, more goes into the guys at the data center, because there's more business taking place there. They can employ more people, and then you have less of amount of money that people are actually throwing outside the country but local. So that's where the financial benefits actually comes in.
So I will see if there are any other questions. We lost Gislen. I don't know if he spoke about Samuel's Adam question about how is the problem of high bounce rate being resolved, and how about the issue relating to regulation for traffic exchanges? Yep. Does anybody wish to jump on that? How the problem of high bounce rates can be resolved, and how about the issues relating to regulations for, what are those regulations there for traffic exchanges? I don't know if you meant
I don't know what's the problem of high bandwidth.
No, he meant bounce rates. Okay, I guess that's bandwidth actually. Maybe that's bandwidth. I don't know if it's bandwidth or bounce rate, but
okay, because higher bandwidth is actually meant to be a benefit, and we want, if there's higher bandwidth, it depends on the direction. If it's local, I think that's the goal of having an exchange point, and that's the goal. It's growing the ecosystem. So we actually want that to grow. So I don't really get that part of the question. But in terms of what government is doing, there's the new national broadband plan that was actually published. You can see there are sections there that actually talks about government intervention in terms of encouraging more connectivity for the IX, like even in regions that are not really being connected to, will be connected. And as a result of that, you would even have better internet access in that region, because there'll be more connectivity and access to the IX, and also support in terms of funding and infrastructure. So that's, I know that is actually is that part of the plan within the national broadband plan, which is a good one from the government.
great. Thanks so much. I doubt if there are any other questions. I don't know if there's a question I might have missed, or this I might have missed. But thank you so much for your time, Jacob and Darren. Grateful. Nice always having you around. We're going to move to the next section, which has to do with the peering personals. I can't see Gislen, but so I can actually start the section before he joins. For the individuals who are going to be doing the peering personals, let me know if you're here so that we can add you, bring you in. I see Ben here. Who else? Oh, great.
What are the talk about?
I didn't get you, sorry.
And I was asking what the peering personals are about, for those of us that are newbies.
Yes, sir. That's Gislen. Let me try to get Gislen back on the call. I think his network pretty much went out. As So to help to build a better ecosystem in the country is to pretty much know where everybody peers and where they are, what are the AS, what locations are they paired, what their peering DB is, what are those policies that they have, that who do you meet to know what those records are, and that's what the peering personnel is all about. Some ISPs and MNOs and other content providers will literally be telling us where they are currently, what are those content they have, where can you get those content if you know them. And I think that's what the peering section is about. Gislen was the one to handle the section, but he's having some issues with his internet. So I will try to start the section for him, and he will pick up the section when he comes back. Yes, a few minutes. Let me take this full screen and great. Awesome. So I will be sharing this my screen. So oh great. So how to build a stronger and peering P&I ecosystem in Nigeria. So these are the peering personnels for different organizations, and they'll be speaking about their different I'm going to start with Facebook since I have Ben here. So Ben, you can actually start while I can get all the speakers to join. Hi, Ben.
Thanks very much, Joshua. Hope you can hear me okay. So, hey, everyone. With Jakob, who I think is on the call as well. We represent Facebook. We look after the Edge strategy in Sub-Saharan Africa. So we're AS 32934 and AS 63293. In Nigeria, we operate AS 32934 in Lagos. We're connected to both IXPN and WAFIX, and we're also located in the Medallion facility where we can set up PNIs. We're currently putting a cache using AS 63293 connected to IXPN Abuja. That's going to be live soon. If you like peer of us, feel free to reach out to Jakob right now or reach out to peering@fb.com. Just one note, must maintain a PMDB record to peer of us. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much for that. I have Jacob here still. Jacob for the ISPN.
No, I think Charles is online to pick that.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just need to get Charles up here. But if Portia is here, she can speak about the ZD. Next. Hi, Portia.
Hi, thank you, Jacob. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Portia Rabonda. I'm from Flex Optics, but today I'm wearing my INCZA hat. I'm the vice chair of the INCZA Management Committee. INCZA operates 100% community-run internet exchange points throughout South Africa. This is our 25th year of operation, which makes us the oldest IX on the African continent. And we're proud that it is 25 years of in its 25 years of operation, Jinx has had no downtime outside of planned maintenance. We're strong believers that peering should be owned, run, and managed by community. Our management committee is made up of volunteers that donate their time to make sure that INCS continues to service a community need. Each of our INCSs are data center agnostic. In each city, we're available in multiple locations, so you have freedom of choice in how and where you decide to peer. Neutrality and openness are two of our core values. We love to see you peer at our exchanges. Feel free to look me up and ask any additional questions or contact us or our team at ops@incs.net.za. We are in Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg, and that is Sinks, Dinks, and Jinx. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Portia. Good. Back to ISPN. Hi, Charles. I see you're here now. Oh, great. So I can just go to Matthew. If hi, Matthew, you're here. I think I might have lost Matthew. Hi, Matthew. Are you here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, this is Charles.
Hi, Charles. Sorry, welcome back.
All right. My name is Charles Ikusan. I'm representing Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria. Our ASN is 36932. We have 89 members that we have presently the Exchange Point. The last time that we spoke, there were less than 80 something, but now that means we are growing. We have 89 members. Our traffic peak at this moment is around 40 gigabit per second. We are in Nigeria for now, because that's where we have our distribution. In Nigeria, we have like 5 POPs. In Lagos, we have Medallion, Rack Center, Cloud Exchange, MDSI, and IXPN. We also have 1 location in Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, and Enugu. Now, policy, we are open to both multilateral and bilateral pairing. And if you see by your side, we are open. We are in a place whereby you can easily get us at number 6 Broad Street, Marina, Lagos. Our telephone number is also there. Our email, also our website. Just way to get across from. We need to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. Is Matthew back online? Seems like we missed him. Hi, Matthew.
Yeah, hi.
Wait. Yes. So I needed to be sure you're the one doing the pairing for liquid tokens.
Yes, I am. That's the only hat I wear anyway. Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys. It's nice to hear. Actually, before I talk about liquid, I just noticed that. Okay, my name is Matthew Chigwende. I have prepared on network engineering for liquid, and just want to talk about our pairing points. I mean, a lot know of liquid is in lots of places in Southern and Eastern Africa, but I'm glad to say that we are also in West Africa now. So our AS 30844 and our pairing policy is generally open. By that we mean that we pair with almost everyone. We prefer not to pair with on the root servers, because we want to actually find we actually want to do bilateral pairing. And the reason why we are not found we don't pair with root servers is that we do not wish to pair with our customers. It causes some problems. So we pair with almost everyone, and our contact is always peering at liquid.tech. We might still use the liquidtelecom.com, but everything now is moved to liquid.tech, and we are also on the pairing DB. On the next page, we can show you all the pairing points that we have. So we are paired extensively in Europe. So we are in Netherlands, AM6 and DKIX, and France, also on the Interconnection and Interconnection in the UK, and also in Fujairah in Smart Hub. Then in Africa, like in South Africa, we're almost everywhere on the INCs, and on the NAP Africas, we are all in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. In Kenya, mainly IXP, Tanzania, TIX, Uganda, IXP, and Nigeria. You know what? I actually joined this meeting later because there was actually something wrong with peering. So I mean, maybe it's for the network gurus here actually. So we just started in Lagos. So we've got a couple of POPs in the Lagos, and as a new entrant there, we have paired, but not with the big providers yet. Like for instance, Netflix. So because we are pairing, we've got cash on our network, which is what we are promoting here. but in Lagos, we do not have. So what's happening is that in Lagos or in Nigeria in general, our customers are pushing or pulling traffic from our other caches that are in either South Africa or in Kenya. And when the users in Nigeria open up Netflix, what they see on the cover page is top 10 movies in Kenya, and the users are not finding that very amusing. So we are actually in the process of trying to DPA our Lagos network on some of the caches and major peering points that we have because of this problem. So I mean, I just thought I would just mention it, yeah, because I found it quite interesting. Anyway, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Matthew. That's I think I covered all. That's the last of all the pair personals for today. Welcome back, Islan. You might want to continue. Why stop?
No, you've done it all. So the pairing personals. Thank you. Sorry that we had a major network outage on MTN, so I had to find a way out, but it's okay now. It's working. Thank you. Sorry, networks, you know.
So I think as always, I will want to thank the partners who made it possible for us to have this event. Flex Optics, thanks so much. Thanks so much to the team at Facebook, the team at ISOC, that's Internet Society, the Rack Center team, and also the Afrinic team, ngNOG for being the secretariat, and IXPN for allowing us host this event. Thank you so much, everyone who had time to join the session for today. It's been quite interesting. We learned quite a lot from the speakers, from Jacob down to Darwin and down to Faragni. It's been quite an interesting section. We have this is the end of the conference, and we would have a bootcamp, the last bootcamp tomorrow, which will be talking about how to use manners. And I'm sure everyone will be available tomorrow by 11. For now, I want to say thank you very much. And if you wish to contact us, we have, you can always send us an email or reach us via the website, and we'll see you tomorrow by 11. Do have a nice day ahead and a nice week also ahead. Thank you so much all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.